What is good, Counter-Strike fans? Welcome back to another episode of my HLTV Fantasy. Today, we're going to be talking about IEM Rio 2026, the group stage. I think the last time that we spoke, we were talking about Blast Rotterdam playoffs. Um, which Vitality won. Surprise to everyone. I know that you guys are very surprised about Vitality winning yet another event over the last 2 years. But I think there's one event that happened in between, which is PGO Bucharest, which we'll speak about in a little bit, which Foot won, so great for them. Just finished recently, actually. But yeah, we're going to be talking about Rio. I know I left you guys back then, so we're going to speak about the last few events. So let's take a look back at Blast Rotterdam. This was my team, if you remember. Apex, Flamesy from Vitality. Vitality won. Decided to double up on Falcons, who lost to Paravision in the quarterfinals. Paravision went on to face Vitality in the grand final and end up losing. Top 44%, only 6 points towards my spring season standings. Not the worst, honestly, after picking Monacy and kicks in. That's not that bad, to be honest. Major basically carried for that. For PGO Bucharest, this actually was a whole event, so it took into account group stage and playoffs. And for this, I decided to go with double Foot, Cravani Longs, double Astralis and Stare and Hooksy, and then CTR from Focus. Got top 25%, only 10 points. However, even though Foot and Astralis was the grand final, I didn't pick the most optimal players from them. And I think a lot of people basically picked into Foot and Astralis. So it was very hard to get really high rating here because everyone basically kind of copied each other there. I think the best, most optimal fit was, I think, Insani from MIVR. I think he was the best optimal fit player. And I think I had to get better other pieces from Foot and Astralis to do a lot better. But let's look at our current leaderboard. So if you are interested, make sure to join. I will leave the link in the description down below. The winner, which is currently M1 and 2, but the winner at the end of the season will receive a Steam gift card. So make sure if you are interested to join beforehand, before the season ends. But yeah, M1 and 2 is 154 points, so he's doing really well. Also, if you are interested as well, I will also leave another link down below to a Discord community, the HLTV Fantasy Discord community. They also do have a custom leaderboard as well, where they will give prizes to the winner, but also they do like leagues for each individual event where they do give out skins, for example. So if you're interested, make sure to join that as well. They speak during games, they speak before events occur, like strategy wise and everything. So it's a good community. Make sure to join them as well. How we're doing for the spring season standings: 496 in the world, 112 points. You can even see M1 and 2 is doing really well as well. He's top 5. But we're starting to fall down a little bit. There might be only a couple events left before the major. So definitely we need to start being a little bit more risky with our picks, or maybe trying to take some differentials to start catching up, or start performing better, to be honest. But yeah, let's talk about IEM Rio. So this first event will be the group stage, obviously. Split up into 2 groups: Group A, Group B. 3 teams from each group will go through into the playoffs. It's a pretty standard fantasy event. Honestly, you've probably seen this many times. I've spoken about it many times. But let's start off with Group A. Group A has Vitality versus Red Cannons. The winner that will face the winner of General Mace G2 in the semifinals, and then Spirit versus Liquid, and the winner that will face the winner of 3D Max or Falcons in the lower side of the semifinals upper bracket. Overall, overview of this group: Vitality have to be heavy favorites. Heavy favorites. Again, I mean, they're gonna be the heavy favorites for this event anyways. But looking at their side of the upper bracket, they should basically farm their way through to the upper final. Basically 2-0 every team there. Yeah, I think they should basically win the upper final as well. So Vitality, probably you have to double up with them at this point, or you definitely need to have at least one Vitality player, 100%. Some other things to know: Greg Canis, Brazilian team, maybe upset, but they're probably the worst team there. Gentlemen's mates have been doing a lot better recently, but probably a slight chance in this group. I actually think Group A is actually the weakest group out of the two. So Gentlemen's could be an upset team. G2 won't have Hunter. They're gonna bring in a academy player to replace him because he's injured currently, with some Pius being the IGL. Don't expect them to do too well here either. You could see Genomates upsetting them for sure. And then the other two favorites for this group, as in the two teams that I think will take the next two spots, have to be Spirit and Falcons. They have to, but also they've been really poor recently, so there can be upsets. So Spirit and Falcons should make it and beat the other teams. Maybe Liquid upset here. Maybe Liquid take one of those spots from someone, whether it be Spirit or Falcons. 3D Max 2 as well. Again, they're not gonna make the major, so this is basically their major at this point. But yeah, Group A is relatively weak. Basically, pick into Vitality and then maybe pick into Spirit or Falcons. The game theory here will be kinda to pick into a team that doesn't face Vitality at all in Group A, but somehow end up winning the lower final, which could be either Spirit or Falcons. So that's just my 2 cents there, where it's kind of like you kind of want to avoid Vitality here, especially because they do destroy ratings pretty badly. So if you face them, then you probably will get 2-0. For Group B, this is a tougher group. So we have Furia facing Fashion UA. The winner of that will face the winner of Bait versus Navi. Then in the lower side of the upper bracket, we have Aurora Hatu, which will face either Legacy or Mouse. Again, 3 teams will go through. I think the 3 teams that I expect, well, the 2 teams I expect to go through is Furia and Navi. They've been the most, Navi because they've been the most consistent. Furia because of the IEM Rio buff, being in home soil, having basically playing in front of their nation, their country, their nation. Very prideful for them. And then so it has to mean either one of Aurora or Mouse. I expect to be other favorites as well. My brain tells me to go with Aurora, but my heart is telling me to go with Mouse. I know we heard some rumors about Mouse maybe kicking off Brolin or making changes after the major. Maybe that might be better for them because then they can they don't have pressure on them anymore. Some upset teams like here could be Legacy or Bait. Legacy because they're again another Brazilian team, so Brazilian buff, or Bait because they actually have looked a little bit better. But honestly, it has to be one of the 4 main favorites here to take 3 of the spots: Furia, Aurora, Mouse, or Navi. Something as well for game theory wise in fantasy is I do quite like Aurora and Mouse's path here. So if Aurora or even Furia or Navi as well, as long as they win their semifinal or their opening round game, they basically won't face each other. So the loser of Aurora Mouse and the loser of Furia and Navi won't face each other to the lower final. So that at least gives them the full amount of games possible to qualify. Will that happen? Who knows? But something to note as well. If you do end up losing, so if any of the favorites do end up losing right away, then they would face the other loser of the 4 favorite teams in the lower semifinals. I mean, it's weird, but just hear me out. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to face 2 good teams basically for each team, no matter what. So we'll see what happens there. let's talk about the most big players now. So 11,000 people have almost 11,000 people have joined into HLTV Fantasy, and 7,000 have picked Apex. So Apex heavy favorite alongside with Flamesy and Ross from Vitality, and then it's kind of a mix of IGLs with Alexi B from Navi and Fallen from Furia, Torshi the Opera from Mouse, and then Spirit has Somtix and Tenier. So very heavy Vitality, like level up basically, and then it's kind of like a mix. After that, people don't know where to go with their teams. But let's talk about the players individually. For Vitality, all 5 players are in play. My favorite has to be Flamesy. He's probably the best value out of this team, just because he's been kind of matching Saiwu almost with his output. Saiwu at 245 is a little bit expensive, but you know that you're getting the consistency out of him. And Mouse and Flamesy also does a lot better in group stage. Saiwu does good in group stage or playoffs, doesn't matter. This means I will skip on Robs at 220. A little bit too expensive for my liking. He did get MVP last event in Blast, but he doesn't do that well in group stages. I don't mind Messi either at 209. He just hasn't been that great, but I don't mind him. And in Apex, if you're gonna double up, it has to be Apex plus one of Saiwu, Flamesy, Robs, or Messi. So there's that. Navi, favorite option and the best buy for money has to be Makaze. But yet I know that's very expensive, so the next best option has to be Wonderful at 207. I would ignore Bit at 216. I don't mind Ema at 210, however, and I would ignore Alexi B for sure. For Furia, could it be the Brazilian buff? Could they win this event and stop Vitality from winning the whole thing? Maybe. If you want to pick here, definitely look into Kisarado at 225. He's been putting out the best output. He's put up at 1.27 over the last month. And over the last 6 months, he's been putting up at 1.18. So, solid-ish value for money. I would ignore Molodoi for now. Hasn't been too great recently. I'd rather go with someone like Jakindar, for example, at 212. Ignore Yuri as well, and Fallen I don't mind either at 188. I think he's a lot better than someone like, for example, Alexi. He has a little bit more upside, if you know what I mean. For Falcons, has to be your group stage farmer Kurisuke at 217 as the best option. I don't mind Monesi either at 230, but I think it's a little bit too expensive for a non-Vitality player. Nico 29, Nico without Kyusuke, I would go for. Nico with Kyusuke, he just doesn't look comfortable in his roles. And we've seen that so far this year. So I would ignore Nico. Kickson at 190, I don't mind. He sometimes puts up good ratings. Sometimes. Tessis at 195, he did look a lot better last event. But that was before Kyusuke. Once Kyusuke came back, he looked horrible. So again, it might just be, coincidence, but it's looking like when Kyusuke comes in place, he basically farms all the rating and it makes Nico and Tessis play worse, and the overall team plays worse with Kyusuke. So just something to note. Aurora, best option, favorite option has to be Woxic at 205. He's been putting up a 1.13 rating over the last month. Over the last 3 months, he's been putting up a 1.07. So that's solid value right there. Now, if you want to make a double up, you can either spend less on Major at 189, which is strong. I mean, he's fine. He's not been as bad as you would think. He put up a 1 rating last event, I think, if I recall correctly. Or if you want to spend up, then I will look into Wicadia. Wicadia has been their best player over the last month, and over the last 3 months, honestly. He's been matching and outperforming actually Centaurus. So Wicadia is probably the best value. Ignore Centaurus and SoFi, those prices. For Mouse, I guess the best option has to be Spanx at 217, but that's way too expensive for a Mouse player. So ignore that. Ignore Surgeon as well, and look into Brawl and Torshi and Jim Hat as your 3 Mouse players. Torshi and Jim Hat will probably be the better double up, But Brolin has put up some good ratings so far, and he sometimes has looked a little bit like the best player as well. Spirit, gonna, I mean, it's always has to be Dunk or it has to be Shiro. Either or are the best because they put up ratings. I mean, Dunk is putting up averaging like a 1.4, and then Shiro's averaging at 1.2, so they're consistent in that regard. But the upside and the value for money could come from Magic's, Tenier, and Sontics. I know all three of them have been putting up under a 1 rating, but we just need one of them to step up. And maybe if one of them steps up, then maybe Spirit starts getting better results. Is it likely? Maybe, maybe not, but you could take a chance there in 10 years, Sontics or Magics. G2, it has to be Matty S as your best option. Ignore Heavy Gun and Nerds. I don't mind some Pies of 187. And I know a lot of people will probably pick the G2 Academy player and TAC as their fifth. I don't mind it, but I don't expect G2 to do well in this event. And he has never played a top 50 opposition prior to this. So it's not looking great for him. But I don't know. He's cheap enough that you can go for him if you are interested. But I don't know how well G2 would do without Hunter. If this was Hunter, maybe I would definitely take the chance with this at that price. But not with this current team. But maybe Tag could pop off. You never know. I think he's an intriguing option at the least. Legacy, maybe they get the Brazilian buff in Group B, but it's kind of unlikely. They haven't looked that great recently. Your options have to be Lotto as your best. Nissim and Satsin are also options at those prices. I would ignore Art and Dumao just because of the pricing. 3 Max, I mean, Misuda's been popping off a lot recently, so that's an option, but a little bit too expensive. Maka is not bad either, 193. Ignore the rest. Bait, they could be an upset team in Group B. They have looked a little bit better, but I think at those prices, you ignore. Sissy, the silhouette finally has a picture. 180 is interesting, but he is very boomer bust. He has some great maps and he has some really, really poor maps. I mean, he's still young, 16-year-old Alper, but I mean, if you want to take a risk there, go ahead. Liquid, here is the other team that I'm kind of interested in outside of the heavy favorites at the top. Group A is weak, and Falcons and Spirit are both there to be upset. So I think Liquid is interesting in that regard. Look into Elige and Malbs as the favorites. Malbs being my favorite personally because of that headshot roll, which is triggers at a really high rate. Ignore Naf and Shuhi because either Naf is too expensive and Shuhi just doesn't do enough. But Ultimate could be a sneaky one as well. Look into Liquid if you're interested as a fifth sneaky option. Passion UA, I wouldn't expect him to go far. Fang is the cheapest player in the event, so if you want to save some money, go there. Otherwise, ignore. I mean, they don't have Sensu, so don't expect them to go too far. They don't have enough firepower here. Gentleman's another upset team or little low-key team in Group A. Alex, I like at 178 just because he's super cheap, and has put up some okay ratings with Gentleman's. But again, they probably won't do much in that group, to be honest. And then Hot Toon, Red Canis, ignore, in my opinion. So let's look at my team for this event. And this is my team. Decided to go with one Vitality player in Flamesy. And this is because, well, you do have to have one Vitality player, in my opinion. I'm going to go with Flamesy because he farms group stages and he's put up some good ratings. And I know Vitality will basically 3-0 their way through the group stage. What I'm hoping is, because you have to pick one of the big Vitality players, but then you have to pair him up with Apex basically to put up a somewhat goodish team, is the Apex doesn't put up a 1 rating or doesn't farm as much as the other players. And if he doesn't, then that kind of helps me because then I get to use that money to spend on other players, for example, or players with higher upside, I would say, than Apex. Um, this could horrifically backfire on me, and Apex could farm the group stage. But I'm gonna take that chance, and that chance could be with Spirit from Group A. I'm going Santex and Tenier. I checked their events. They do have higher rated singular events than Apex, so there's the upside. They are a lot cheaper as well. And all we need is for one of them to step up. If they beat Liquid, which they should in theory, they face Falcons, right? In the upper bracket semifinals. What I would hope from there is that they actually lose to Falcons, make a run in the lower bracket, and not face Vitality. And then I could see Santex and Tenier being good value there. If they do end up beating Falcons, again, hoping that they are good value, but they do take the hit of facing Vitality in the upper finals, probably losing some or even a lot of rating from that game. But yeah, taking the chance on Spirit is a risky chance, especially with two unproven Spirit players that are not Shiro or Donk. But I'm hoping that they can farm. But I'm hoping that my plan goes to that the bracket goes according to what I think is that Spirit end up farming the lower bracket. And not having to face Vitality either. And then from Group B, I'm gonna go with Double Up Mouse. They do have the toughest opening matchup against Legacy, who are gonna be wanting to win the game. I know we have a poor Mouse event last event, but this could be a bounce back. I think having players like Jim Hunter Torshi, who can put up at least somewhat respectable ratings there, I'm just gonna take a chance with them. I think all four of them, Furia and Navi, are a little bit too expensive to double up on. Aurora I don't mind either, but then I'll have to pick someone like Major, for example. So rather take a chance on Mouse players, and hopefully they make a run on their group. So this is my team. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Leave your teams, what you're thinking about this event. It's gonna be very interesting to see as well. Could someone sub Vitality? Possibly Furia, but we'll see as we'll be back here as well for the playoffs. So yeah, good luck, have fun, and see you next time.